Hello, I'm Annie Conway.
And I'm Mackenzie Grayson.
And today we'll be talking about the question, should organ donation be mandatory, yes or no? So as a class, at a raise of hands, who feels organ donation should be mandatory? Who feels that it should not be mandatory? So what is organ donation? And according to clevelandclinic.org, it is a surgical procedure removing one organ from an individual, which is known as a recipient, and placing it into another individual, which is known as recipient.
And to go on to that, according to organdonor.gov, it is an intense surgical procedure, and to become an organ donor, the blood and oxygen has to flow through the organs at the time of recovery to ensure effectiveness. So this can happen from a brain trauma that will cause a neurological injury, and it can be caused by an aneurysm, a stroke, a car accident, or even a tragic fall. So moreover, to become an organ donor, you have to be pronounced as irreversible resuscitation. And once again, the person who donates is called the donor, and the person who receives the organ is the recipient. However, you cannot donate an organ if you have had HIV throughout your life. And lastly, you can also be a live donor. So this is usually to a close friend or family member. And the most common live organ that's donated is the kidney. However, the liver and lungs can be transplanted too, but this can only be done partially, and it's not as common. So there are 6 phases to organ donation. The first phase is to sign up. So you can do this at your local DMV when you get your license or renew your license, and this is what it would look like on your license. Or you can even sign up by going onto www.donatelife.mn.org, and according to Save7Lives.org, it is a legally binding document, so your parents or family members cannot take that away from you, and you will always be an organ donor. And just keep in mind when you sign up that you are not signing up for a live donation. The second phase is the critical care determination of death. So the medical staff is going to take care of you, of the donor, and if he or she does pass away, then they have to take multiple steps and do multiple tests to make sure that person has passed away. The third phase is donor identification and consent. And if a potential donor is passed away or is near passing, the hospital will contact the OPO to make sure that person is eligible for the transplant. And if the person has passed away and he or she did not give consent, the OPO will contact the family for consent. And once the family gives consent, that is when the OPO will do further research on their background information such as blood type, height, weight, the location of the recipient and donors' hospitals, along with how long the recipient's been on the waiting list, and how their medical history has been. The fourth phase is the most critical phase, and this is the organ transport. And the reason it's the most critical is because if the organ is being transported and it's dropped or damaged, the organ will no longer be viable. And if the organ is no longer viable, then it cannot be transplanted into the recipient's body, and he or she could potentially pass away then. And then the fifth phase is organ transplant, and this is the most obvious phase because it's the surgical procedure which puts the organ into the recipient's body. And the last and final phase is the recovery period, and this is a unique process for each person and shows how that person will adapt to the organ. So it just mainly depends on which organ was transplanted and the condition of that person before the surgery took place. And this chart here just shows all the different ages that donated their organs in the year 2000, so it just shows that anyone can donate an organ.
It was known that researchers started experimenting with organ donation in the 18th century. The first successful living organ donation was on December 23, 1954 at Brigham Hospital, which is located in Boston. This was done by 2 doctors named Dr. Joseph Murray and Dr. David Hughes. This was a kidney transplant, and it was between 2 identical twins. Here's a list of some of the organs that can be donated living and when you're deceased, which consists of the skin, liver, lungs, heart, intestines, eyes, pancreas, kidneys, bones, multiple types of tissues, and your reproductive organs. And this basically is the whole body.
So there are some myths that go along with organ donation, and the first one is that the medical care won't be as adequate as if when you donate an organ, and this isn't true because the medical staff's #1 priority is to take care of the patient, and organ donation isn't considered until all efforts have been made to save a person's life and if they have failed. Also, once the person has passed away, they are still kept on a ventilator so the oxygen and blood can pump through the organs. So even when you have passed away, you're still being taken care of by the medical staff. And lastly, the medical staff that takes care of the patient is not the same staff that will be performing the actual surgical procedure. The second myth is that one will lose the chance of having an open casket at a funeral, and again, the medical staff does everything in their power to carefully perform the procedure because they want you to be able to have an open casket and there's few scars left. The third myth is that one is too young or too old to donate an organ, and this isn't true because referring back to the chart I showed before, any age, either if you're 7 or 70, you can donate an organ. And remember, you can be a deceased donor or a live donor. The fourth myth is that your family will be charged extra to donate an organ, and the hospital is not going to make your family pay extra for saving a life. According to organdonor.gov, the life source takes care of all of the costs, and then later they will pass it on to the recipient's insurance as part of the transplant process. And the fifth myth is that it is against certain religions, and in my eyes, I believe all major religions believe that a donation is compassionate or generous, and if that's not the case, then they will leave it up to them for their personal choice. There are also some stats that go along with organ donation, and one person every 10 minutes needs a new organ. In 1993, there were 17,631 people who received transplants and 31,355 people who were on the waiting list. A few years later, in 2013, there were 28,954 transplants, while there were 121,272 people on the waiting list. So therefore, less people received organs, and out of 2.5 million deaths in the U.S., 121,272 of them were from not receiving the organ. Also, 79 patients a day receive a transplant, but while those 79 people are receiving their organs, 22 people are dying from being on the waiting list. And this graph here shows the same trend. So in 1989, there were about 20,000 people on the waiting list, but in 2009, there were 100,000. And one should want to become an organ donor because as of May of 2009, the percentage of recipients who were still living 5 years after they received a kidney was 69.3%, and for the recipients who received a heart or liver were between 73 and 75%. So did you know one person can save up to 8 lives by donating an organ? Well, if it was a perfect world and everyone in this class decided to donate their organs, we could potentially save up to 1,000 lives. So just think of this scenario. If your loved one was deathly ill and would not live without having a new heart, and the person next to their room coded and they decided not to donate their organ, wouldn't you wonder what if organ donation was mandatory? That could potentially mean that heart would fit all the qualities of your loved one, and your loved one could live then. This is a situation that all of us could potentially go through, and it's also a situation where we could make a difference. So I strongly believe organ donation should be mandatory for many reasons. The first reason is because the person who has passed away they're no longer living or using their organs, so these organs can be transplanted into another person so their life can prosper. The second reason is because there won't be a shortage of viable organs, and also the cost will decrease of the actual procedure, because there will be a greater chance that the recipient is in a greater proximity of the donor, so the cost of transport would also decrease, and this will hopefully decrease the number of people on the waiting list. Also, it will allow the recipient to live a longer and happier life, and the demand of the organs exceeds the supply. And lastly, it will help families cope with their loss by knowing that their family member has helped save another person's life. So to hopefully inform more people with this subject, we can hopefully have more people that will want to become organ donors, and people can become more informed about this topic by becoming friends with Donate Life on Facebook, and it explains all of the possible things about organ donation. Or you can even partake in an organ donor week, which is Donate Life Week, and it's an annual awareness week that is held in February. So in conclusion, the pros of organ donation outweigh the cons, and I strongly believe that organ donation should be mandatory. Wouldn't you want to save somebody's life?
So many of you have said that organ donation should be mandatory, but I'm going to give you 3 reasons why I feel that organ donation should not be mandatory. The first one is religion. Religion plays an important role in whether an individual can donate their organs or not. Many religions endorse and encourage the fact of organ donation and think that it's an act of kindness, but those are the main religions, and you can't forget about the ones that you don't commonly see on a daily basis. These ones are either strictly against it or questionable about it. And according to DonorRecovery.org, the first one is Amish, and they approve of organ donation only if the individual's life will be improved or saved. If it is questionable, then they are prohibited from participating in it. The second one is the Gypsies, and they're part of Romney. And they believe in afterlife, and that 1 year after the individual dies, its soul comes back and retraces its steps. So the body must remain intact for the soul to keep its physical shape. The third one is Jehovah's Witnesses, and they believe that the Bible does not comment on organ donation, but for some donations it's up to the individual, but they are strictly against blood transfusion. So if the individual decides to go through an organ donation, all blood must be removed from that organ, and this is very risky. And the last one is Shintoism, and this is commonly found in Japan, but I feel like this should be brought up because there are people from Japan that live in the United States. And they believe that the dead body is very dangerous and impure, and that cutting into a dead body is a crime, and they relate organ donation to a crime. By making this mandatory, you're not only changing one individual's values and beliefs, but you're changing a whole community. In a way, you're kind of disrespecting it. My second reason is risk of health. Many people are unaware of how risky this procedure is and how quickly many things can go wrong. Some side effects of organ donation include hemorrhaging, blood clots, and damage to nearby organs. These side effects can lead to lifelong health problems, continuous pain, and even death. It's very impossible to predict how the body will react to a new organ, and this is why some organ donations fail because of the body rejecting it. The immune system can see this new organ as a possible threat, and as well as diseases being transmitted through organ donation. By making this mandatory, you're making every individual be at risk for any of these side effects. And you could easily change a healthy person into an unhealthy person in just donating an organ. And my third and final reason is own values. When it really comes down to organ donation, it is a personal decision. Individuals have little say in where or who their organs are going to. And this is very uncomfortable for some people. And this plays back to religion. An individual giving to another individual with a different value or belief is very worrisome for some other individuals. Some people feel that even being on an operating table or even let alone in a hospital is very scary enough. So by making this mandatory, you're putting every individual in an uncomfortable position and making them do something they don't feel comfortable doing. And I feel like every individual should have a say in whether they want to give something that's so valuable to them up. And so now as a class, at a raise of hands, who feels that organ donation should be mandatory? Who does not? Thank you.
Thank you.